Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up loud. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Hello! Let's go! I'm going to go see these guys tonight. What's going on, all you scallywags, nutmeggers, across the fruited plain? It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080. Let's get it popping. We got so much stuff to get into today. I've got news. I've got views. I've got headlines. I've got Russiagate, more unsealed, declassified documents coming out today. And I've got some audio that just burns the Democrats. It's so bad. I also hear there's a senator who vows to expose tonight on YouTube. I don't know what it is, but I will tell you guys about that as well. The Epstein files. CBS is now investigating it intently. The videotape of inside the jail. They've got all that stuff there. They're so enamored with this story now. Couldn't get them to talk about it for years. But now they're all over it. Thank God. Hey, you know what? Better late than never. Huh? Right? I'm so happy now that the mainstream media, or as Sarah Palin used to call them, the lamestream media, finally joining the rest of us in the 21st century, covering the stories that we wanted to know eons ago. Thanks for joining us, folks. Welcome back. Is the DeLorean okay since you got back from the past? I want to talk about something today because I was thinking about this last night, saying to myself, if I do this monologue, I might hurt feelings. I might say something that I'll get a call from my bosses and say, Reese, a lot of people called and they were really, really upset with what you said on the air that day. And I kept going over and over, and I said, there's a way to do this. There's a way to do this that makes my point where I don't have to hurt people. I don't have to be mean-spirited, because what I want to say isn't mean-spirited. I'm just coming from a very honest place. And before I tell or do the opening monologue, there's a video circulating about an interview that Jerry Seinfeld did with Howard Stern on his program. It's not about Howard Stern. It's about Jerry Seinfeld. And Jerry Seinfeld talked about the brilliance of a joke. Many of you may have seen it, be it on Instagram, TikTok, wherever it is you get your internet or interweb stuff. But he says this joke. He talks about this joke and how he tweaked it. The first joke was, who are these people who don't answer phone calls? You're not that important. And he said that hurt people's feelings in the audience, so he tweaked it by then telling the joke by saying, who are these people who are calling you? They're not that important. Said the joke works. Same joke, but it twists who the subject is, and it insults people who aren't present. And I thought, how smart of him, understanding comedy in that way. That's the reason why he's one of the masters. I like Seinfeld. Don't really watch his stand-up, but he is funny and brilliant. So I took that video and applied it to today's opening monologue, because I thought it was, made sense. So I'm going to start off the monologue by saying, I was once ugly, hideous even. Oh, yes, as a child, I had a big, giant head. I was called Squarehead as a child. My nickname was Bummy Eddie. I was ridiculed and mocked in my neighborhood, often, and bullied. Oh, boy, was I bullied. I told you about my bully. His name was Cornflake. His real name was James, but I only knew him as Cornflake. In fact, it was only after I stopped getting my butt kicked by Cornflake, I realized he had an actual name, James. But I was bullied by this and mocked. No girl dated me or liked me. I was a mess, folks. I was a mess. And I understood that. And having never had a girlfriend in junior high or high school, I knew that something had to change. It was me. I had to dress better. I had to stop being socially awkward. I had to learn how to navigate through and around my peers so that I could become an acceptable member. It was hard. It was difficult. I watched movies and television. I talked to friends and neighbors and other cool kids. I watched how they worked. And I adapted. I even, dare I say, stole a little bit of their style and incorporated it into my own. I liked funny comedians. I often talk right here on this program about how my mother loved Robin Williams. Anything he was in, my mother was all over. And I was a bit jealous of Robin Williams because he made my mom laugh, and I wanted to make my mother laugh. I got that opportunity as I got older. My mother used to sit around and listen to my podcast all the time, and I would hear her chuckle. It was like the biggest reward to make my mom laugh the way she did. And to make her laugh the way that Robin Williams did, forget it. I was in heaven. And I realized that that was appealing. I learned that style from guys like Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy and Red Fox. I was becoming attractive. I was becoming likable. It took years. I'm talking about the guy who was 10 years old versus the guy who was 20 years old were night and day. I knew that I could become an attractive person, not just in looks, but in style, in approach. I could gain, I would say, a little bit of gravitas. And it turned me into the beautiful man that I am today. Oh, hell, I'm gorgeous. Even if you don't think so. Even if you were to look at me or to see me in any other case and say, I don't know, maybe, he's a Hartford 5. And that's fine with me. But growing up, I realized that I was not going to be attractive to everyone. But I made myself attractive to some. I knew that I could be appealing. And it took a long time. I knew I couldn't do it overnight. I had to learn to be okay with where I was in life and make the best of that. Now, why? Why is all of that important to this opening monologue? Well, folks, the ugly people are in charge. Or at least they think they are. And I'm trying to figure out when it happened. Oh, it would have been great if that had happened when I was ugly. Or at least I thought I was. It would be great if it was like that when I was a kid. That you mean to tell me my ugliness has power? I could make the beautiful people bow down to me? That I had that power, that I can use my ugliness as a means to get the beautiful people to heal? Look at you, Lee Majors. Your attractiveness and getting to star on the $6 Million Man is white supremacy. They should give that job to an ugly black man. Boy, if I knew I had that power. You guys know what I'm talking about, this Sydney Sweeney thing. They haven't learned. It's growing. The conversation is growing. And the ugly people think that they're still in charge. Yes, we know what happened 4 or 5 years ago when everybody was just relinquishing their power to the uglies. I know, I understand that. I know that people needed to feel bad or better about themselves by relinquishing or feeling guilty about their wealth, their privilege, their prominence, hell, their beauty. They needed to shame themselves and hand it all over to a bunch of people with holes in their faces and metal dripping off their noses. I don't know what happened, but that's not the world that I want to live in. I don't want to live in a world where I now have to be completely overrun by slovenly, unkept, disgusting-looking people with purple hair. It is unfathomable. I need something to reach. Don't we all? Sure, we're never, ever going to look like Sydney Sweeney. I am never, ever going to look like some of these heartthrobs and, whatever these bird chest boys who are dancing all on stage. I'm never going to look like them. I get it. I'm a 235-pound, 55-year-old. I'm never going to look like them. Hell, I don't even think Denzel Washington is attractive, but for some odd reason, women find him gorgeous, and I'm never going to look as good as him. Never. And I've accepted that. But here's the thing. People are always asking ugly people or people are always saying that ugly people need to accept who they are and what they look like. Well, I'd like to extend that olive branch to you beautiful people. I need you to accept how beautiful you are and how much joy you bring to the world. You do. I'm telling you, you do. Believe it or not, there are people right now joining a gym, jogging, exercising, making themselves better. Why? Because of you. You're making the world a better place. Never give that up. Those of you who are naturally beautiful, why would you ever relent that? God put you here to beautify the world. That is nothing to be ashamed of, ever. Tell the ugly folks to pound sand and work on it. Get on it. You see, I had this theory back in the day, and a lot of people got mad at me for this, and they may even be mad about it today. I had a theory about tattoos. I ended up getting one, but I had a theory back in the days about tattoos. And not the guys who originally would get tattoos, the ones who get like the heart with mom. Maybe they get something significant on their arm. They were in the military, so that was kind of, the culture. Sailors was a big one when I was growing up. But then we started to see people who really didn't need a tattoo getting tattoos. And then you'd meet them and you talk to them and you found out that they were vapid and empty and had nothing even remotely worth talking to them about. You know who they are. And I came up with a theory and says the reason why that person got that outrageous tattoo was because if they have that, at least they have something to engage other people with. It's like an ornament. It's like a snow globe on your arm. Hey, where'd you get that from? Oh, this tattoo artist down in the village. He's really, really interesting. I did this one because that's my grandmother, and there's my mom, and this one goes to my great-great-grandmother now they're interesting. Now, I know a lot of people get mad at me for saying that. I'm not talking about you. If it don't apply, let it fly. But see, now I've noticed there's a different thing going on. It's not about tattoos. Now they're putting metal in the face, and it's everywhere, all over them, doing the big giant gauges in the ear, big giant holes in the ears. Yeah, you see them out there. And what happens when they walk by? You're looking at them. Why? Because otherwise you'd never notice. Otherwise, they're just another face in the crowd. And we live in a culture today that everyone must be noticed. And because they don't see themselves as beautiful, they have to turn themselves into freaks. Because now the freaks are in charge. The crazy people run the asylum now. And why? Because good-natured people, good-souled people, don't want their beauty to make others feel bad. This makes you a saint, but also a fool. They will never forgive you for being beautiful. They will only shame you and dismiss you and be hurtful to you. Once you give them that power, it is hard to give it up because they've never had it before and they don't know how to wield it other than to put you down. So enough. Give it up. Embrace your beauty. I demand it. I ask you, you are doing the world a service. Continue. Be beautiful. Flourish. Make beautiful babies. I don't care if they're blonde hair and blue-eyed. We need more of you. Be fruitful and multiply. Don't let these horrible people tell you that you don't deserve to belong. They belong too. Perhaps they can adapt. Perhaps they can recognize their own inner beauty. And then maybe people will start finding them attractive overall. And they won't just look at them as just service folks or surface beauty with a whole bunch of holes in their face. Think about it. Beautiful people, unite. We love you. We respect you. And we need more of you. We'll take a break. It's Reese on the Radio on WTIC News Talk 1080. Hey, we're back. Reese on the Radio, News Talk 1080. Look, this whole thing about beauty and being attractive, you got to understand what this is about. And if it's one of those things where you're not allowed to say certain things because it comes off a certain way. So imagine there's a booby trap inside or embedded in a conversation. Let me explain it to you this way. If I were a white man and I were on this network saying, white folks, it's okay for us to say that we're beautiful. It's okay for us to be beautiful and attractive. This would be deemed white supremacist talk if we were to leave it to the bozos who think that they're in charge, right? All of the knuckleheads on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media. As a black man saying, I love Sydney Sweeney. She's an attractive and hot and very beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman. And she's the salt of the earth, damn it. Every black person listening would go, look at that sellout wannabe white. But see, the only thing that separates, if I were a white person and being a black person saying that, is giving a damn. And I don't give a damn. You see, the power is somewhere in the ether. You can hold it or you can give it away. Or you can cede it without even trying. What's happening in this American Eagle controversy is now spreading to the New York Times. Try this on for size. They did this yesterday. The New York Times team up to bash conservative women for being skinny. Liberals are getting fatter. Conservatives getting skinnier. And it all comes back to the most important thing in life. This is the conversation people are happening. Maybe it's the summer. Maybe it's people trying to distract themselves from the news that's really, really killing them. And that is nobody wants to be a Democrat. No one wants to be woke, and they're trying to resuscitate wokeness. Perhaps that's the reason. If I were to go out on a limb, I'd say that's exactly what it is. But you don't, woke has gotten the impression, and again, when you give someone power, they will abuse it. It doesn't matter who it is. If you give them unadulterated power, if you give them unchecked power, they will abuse it. They will see how far they can go. It's human. We all want to be good. Some people are really, really good. I will say a vast majority of people are really, really good. But if you put a particular kind of power in a person's hands where it sort of piques something that is really dear to them, they can be influenced, if not tempted, to abuse it. Because, again, it's unchecked. It's just who we are. I can do that. And then you start to test it. And if it feels good, and if you've convinced yourself that what you're doing is good, you can overstep. If somebody is close to you, they can go to you and say, hey, you're going too far. Maybe you might moderate. Yeah, you might be right. I may be going too far. But I'm doing the right thing. You can convince yourself of that. That's what's happening to these people. Remember, they were never operating out of the goodness of their heart. What do you think woke was about? Do you think woke was about, I think it's unfair that they have all of this privilege. I think it's unfair that they're on every magazine and in every newspaper and on every commercial and in every movie. And that they should spread the wealth fairly and equally. Do you think that was their motivation? No. All of this came out of anger. All of it. Over time. Constantly washing over people like a wave. Kept deteriorating all of what we knew. And then finally, people got in charge and said, I can actually do something about it. I'm going to be the person who is going to save the ugly folks. I say that tongue-in-cheek. Then all of these people start giving it away, start giving a little bit away of their power. Why? Part of it is because they don't want to be abused by these people. They don't want the pitchforks at their house. But they also feel, in some way, I don't know, they feel great about themselves. They feel like they've accomplished something. I was a savior. I did the right thing. Look at me. And then what happens when no one's looking? They turn against you. Okay, we're done with you. Thank you for letting us in the door. Thank you for giving us the keys to the castle. Now you can go. And now you're on the outside looking in, saying, what happened? Why is it that you're a pariah now? Because you were never one of them. You were never one of their friends. You were the enemy who was swayed by their anger, by their bitterness. You felt bad for them, and you were taken advantage of. And now you're wondering what to do with yourself. Because we don't want you. You're a traitor. You just are. You're a traitor. No one can ever trust you with the keys anymore. So go to the back of the line. We've got this. I just want to tell people that, look, if you're beautiful, and this isn't to say that other people aren't beautiful. Have you seen Selma Hayek? Have you seen her? Have you seen her today? Still as hot as ever. Now, I'm not going to lie. She was absolutely she was like a dime plus 15 cents back in the Wasn't the name of that Quentin Tarantino movie that he was in? Dusk Till Dawn? Was that the name of it?
Either that or Dawn Till Dead. Something.
Yeah,
yes.
Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, with George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino. The one she was in there with the snake around her neck. God, she was flawless. I'm like, who is this? But yes, that beautiful women everywhere of all shapes, sizes, races. I mean, I could think of a dozen just off the top of my head that aren't white and blonde. Immaculate-looking women all over the place. But this nonsense that we have to exclude certain individuals because they're not in the minority is bogus. I don't want to limit beauty in my life. I don't want to start scaling it down. Who are these people? Wretched, I tell you. Wretched individuals. I can't even imagine that. I saw this. They have this video that came out yesterday. Well, it didn't come out yesterday, but apparently Sydney Sweeney's in another ad where she's in some sort of like suede bikini for shoes and wearing a cowboy hat. She walks up on the screen. I was watching it yesterday on Fox, and she came up on the screen. My wife is over, like literally sitting in the living room with me, and it shows up on the screen, and I go, whoa. And I look at my wife, and I go, I am so sorry. And Roseanne looks at me and says, oh, no apology needed. She's looking at the same thing I'm looking at. She couldn't believe how gorgeous she was. Now, hell, that's the reason why I married her, because she's cool as hell. But she didn't, you know what I'm saying? There was nothing to be jealous about. She recognized how hot Sydney Sweeney looked. Because I had never seen her. I was like, whoa, really? And she was like, no apology needed. She looks amazing. But see, that's because my wife isn't bitter. As a lot of people aren't. They appreciate that beauty. It enriches their life. And it can. Beauty is there to enrich your life. It's not about objectification. It's not about any of that nonsense. It's about all of us. My wife looked at her and said, I got to get in the gym. That's the first thing she said. I got to get in the gym. Folks, that's what we call inspiring. Now, I, being the hero and brilliant man that I am, looked at my wife and said, baby, come on, nah. You look fantastic. And I'm sticking to that. She does. She's beautiful. Crazy? I'm the luckiest man alive. But you gotta, come on. All of that other stuff is nonsense. Insane, I might add. Now, Frank is telling me that everybody is beautiful. Frank, with all due respect, some people are beautiful on the inside.
Hell no. There's only one natural beauty in America.
Yes, I
Black
know.
Beauty, the queen. You can't beat the black woman.
Hey, I can, and her name is Sydney Sweeney, and I can name a couple others as well.
Go away. Let me tell you something. You don't judge a woman's beauty at 5 o'clock at night. You judge it at 5 o'clock in the morning. And these white women at that hour, they're as white as a bottle of milk.
Hey.
It's unbelievable how white they are.
Hey, you know what? Listen to me. I'm going to say this again, and I'll say it from the bottom of my heart, okay? You will not ever disgrace the salt of the earth, the fine, beautiful white woman.
Nature's beauty. Look what happened in Connecticut. We've had record amounts of people going to the beach. They had to turn people away. Who's at those beaches getting a suntan, trying to look black?
Oh, no. I won't listen. That's one of my biggest lines. I'll tell them, it's like everybody wants to be black until the police are called.
Sure they do. Even Kamala Harris wants to be a black. Listen, nature's beauty is the black one. This guy called up yesterday, Craig, talking about hot blondes. There are no hot blondes, my friend, at 5 o'clock.
Listen to me. That's, first of all, I know that's nonsense. I never believe in that. But, Frank, I knew as soon as I saw you, it was like, this guy's got to defend black women. This isn't to say that black women, hold on. This isn't to say that black women aren't gorgeous. The most beautiful woman in the world that I can tell you. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of people who cannot beat this woman. In my view, I think she's gorgeous, and that's Kelly Rowland. I still say she's at the top of my list of beautiful women in this world, and she is a black woman, the woman from Destiny's Child. She is one of the most gorgeous women in the world. I used to have a huge crush on Gabrielle Union, and Megan Good is another one. All three of those women are top tier as far as my level of beauty. But I'm not going to sit up here and just shame the beauty of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman. I'm sorry.
She's not good looking at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, listen to me. I disagree with you because I woke up with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman for 4 years back in the 90s.
You were probably drunk half of the time.
No, I definitely was not. You get out of here, you mean guy. I'm not going to defame my beautiful white women. Again, I'm just saying, this craziness, this whole thing about now it's going to be associated with conservatism, with MAGA. Looking good is now associated with MAGA Republicans. I'll take it. I'll take it any day of the week. You know, if that's the way we're going to look at it, and we walk down the street and we're looking at somebody and they're either overweight or got a whole bunch of holes in their face, am I going to go, whew, we know who you voted for. You look vaccinated. Okay, that was a joke. Don't be mad. I know a lot of people got vaccinated. I'm not trying to crap on you. We got to take a break. When we come back, more news, more views. We'll take your phone calls. I know a lot of people want to chime in on this subject. You can. 860-522-WTIC. 860-522-9842. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080. We're back. It's Reese on the radio, WTIC News Talk 1080. I know for a fact that anybody on the left is listening to that and just going, man, I don't care. I don't care. The nonsense is over with. I can't play games with these people anymore, and I can't even listen to the outrage. I've seen every video there is that has been protesting this ad, and I'm sorry, there ain't a looker amongst you. And when I was growing up, that was just jealousy and envy. And looking at that woman and being absolutely upset that deep down, your boyfriend is checking out Sydney Sweeney. And that makes you feel inadequate. That's all. Because you already have low self-esteem. Work on it. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Self-esteem. Let's go to a guy who's dated more strippers than Hugh Hefner. White Mike is calling from Florida. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, man. Well, yeah, the thing is, no, not everybody's beautiful because beauty is defined by its opposite member. So if everybody's beautiful, nobody's beautiful.
Very good. Very good point.
Okay. And as far as this last guy, look, man, I don't know. He's got jungle fever or whatever. But there's not a black woman on the planet who wakes up every day and has to deal with that thing on top of her head that doesn't secretly wish she was a blonde-haired white girl with good hair.
You know, I always remember that line from Chasing Amy. You remember that, a Black Rage scene where the comic book guy is in like, deep down, we all wants to be white. And Jason gets up and says, isn't that true?
We talked about this before, and I actually feel sorrier for black women than anybody because they live in a society in which it is 100% clear their beauty standard is not the accepted standard. It's just not. It's never going to be. I don't care how many you push at us. I don't care if you find half-white Zendaya and try to tell me she's a babe. She's not. Black models, the only ones who are really successful, except for the freaky, like, diversity hires,
right,
are the ones that had just enough Caucasian features to pass and had good hair.
It's very true.
Like,
I have got to find this picture. I've got to post it back on Facebook, but I do it every time this conversation comes up, right? Ebony Magazine, back in 1968, I'm almost certain. But I'll find it because I know it's on my Facebook page and it always comes up now and again. but Ebony magazine, preeminent black magazine, had a picture on its cover of black women sort of like in the Partridge Family sort of patterns, or like the Brady Bunch patterns, and it had pictures of all of these different black women. The headline on the Ebony magazine cover says, "When did black women start becoming attractive?" I almost lost my mind. I went, this was in a black magazine in the 60s? Like, what? And every time I post it, people go, really? I'm like, yes, that's what and it's not to say that there weren't any, but here's where the rub is. And it goes right to your point. The women on the picture, all light skinned. All of them.
Yeah, dude, of course. Bro, look, I grew up in the Deep South, okay, and in the shadow of segregation and slavery. And I know for sure that colorism is a thing. 100% is a thing.
Even in black colleges.
Even
in black colleges. Remember, they used to have what's called the paper bag test.
Yeah, Spike Lee made a movie about it called School Days.
School Days,
remember?
That's right.
With, like, the dark skins and light skins having like dance battles and whatnot.
That's right.
Yeah, so dude, it's a thing, and I feel bad, but we've also placed too much importance on beauty in our country, because being beautiful is like usually the least important or impressive thing about somebody.
Indeed.
The reason people like Sydney Sweeney in a sea of beautiful women in the world is because Sydney Sweeney's personality shines through. She seems like a normal chick.
Yeah.
And she's not running her mouth about a bunch of stuff that she's too dumb to understand.
Right.
Like most of these actresses. Sydney Sweeney knows her role. She's a hot piece of tail who seems like the dream girl next door.
Yeah. And you know what? It's nice. There's a reason why I'm defending her in this regard. And that is that what you just described has been lost in the culture overall. The girl next door used to be the thing. It didn't matter who it was. Everybody had that ideal of the girl next door. By the way, that doesn't matter what the race is. The girl next door was a person who just understands she's cute, she's funny, and the boy next door liked her and wished that he could date her. Any guy in the world could identify with that.
And on this standard, right, you and I are the same age.
Yep.
So our cultural girls next door, if you look at them, there was a good possibility that I could have lived next door to somebody who looked like Elizabeth Shue.
Yes.
Okay? Elizabeth Shue was a pretty girl, but she was a reasonable, normal human amount of attractiveness.
That's right.
I don't think many people in the world live next to somebody who looks like Sydney Sweeney.
100%.
That girl's genes came together perfectly. I gotta go to her for using what she's got. But if she was just pretty, it wouldn't be the thing. It's that she's pretty and she seems like she's in on the joke.
Yep. Mike,
like
we got to go. It's top of the hour, buddy, but I appreciate you. Thank you, man. Let's get to our newsroom with John Sylvan, WTIC News. We'll be back after this. It's Reese on the radio. By the way, stick around because today, you guys know what today is, right? It's Thursday. I haven't done this in a couple of weeks, so don't be mad because I know you missed it. Because it's Thursday, and you know what Thursday means, and it's perfect because it goes right into the conversation I just had with White Mike. What day is it for those of you who just got here? Maybe you're new. Thursday's Negro Nonsense Day.
Negro Nonsense. Negro Nonsense. Negro Nonsense.
That's right, Negro Nonsense today. The Beauty Edition. You don't want to miss this, and I want to thank Boston Julie for taking care of some behind-the-scenes stuff because I got some great stuff that's going to go with that when we come back. So it's something I was talking about earlier. So stick around for that. It's roughly at about the 5 o'clock hour. Also, we've got Sgt James Rutkowski who's going to be calling in at 5 o'clock about I guess, which is a crazy story about who the Hartford chief of police is. You may have heard it during top of the hour news. The interim chief, James Ravella, has actually now been given the permanent job. We'll talk about that. I've got some personal views on that, so I want to get to it. Before we get to the guys that we know who are on the phones, I want to get to Glenn, who's on the I-84. How are you, Glenn?
Yeah, Doing real well. The only thing I got to say is, at the top of the hour, your news, nothing about Russiagate hoax. I'm calling it Obamagate. I mean, it's
Yes.
crickets out there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying 1080. I'm just saying overall, that's gone. Last week, it's like that's a major piece of news that should be on every huge. So
and it's going to get covered.
Time.
And I'm going to tell you this, and I know that it cannot be covered. Here's why, I really do mean this because I understand it. It is not something that can be covered in the top of the news hour for this reason. And I've got the audio sound bites that I'm going to be playing in a bit that break down this thing in such a way. I've got the audio sound bite of somebody who was inside cybersecurity at the SecDef, Secretary of Defense Office, who is on camera talking about how they intended to stop Donald Trump from being inaugurated in 2017. Lord. I've got that audio, so you don't want to miss it. I've got that coming up very soon.
I'm right here. Don't worry.
You got it, Glenn. I promise I will get to it.
Back to the phones. Have a good day.
You got it, boss man. I appreciate you.
All right.
That being said, folks, it's time to get to headlines because I got plenty of them. That I don't have in front of me. It figures. All right, in the news today, ex-ABC News reporter Terry Moran has finally come forward with what we've always known about ABC News, that it's biased. Yeah, so apparently in his Substack yesterday, go look it up, Terry Moran, the recently fired Disney employee, comes out and says that the news organization does not like Trump. And even he says, these are his words, he said, and this bias is bound to impact coverage, not so much out of malevolent bias, but out of what is called a kind of deafness. The old news divisions don't want to hear many voices of the country because those voices aren't in the newsroom. Yes, news teams go out with a microphone and a camera and accost people at Trump rallies. But to me, that often comes off as weirdly as inaccurate. And he says it's kind of like trying to understand the nature by visiting a zoo. He says that the newsroom took all the white men out at ABC News and just brought in all of these so-called diverse people with the same voice. And there's nobody with a dissenting view in the newsroom at ABC News. Terry Moran working there for 28 years. And, of course, this is the guy who went after Donald Trump and, of course, Stephen Miller, which cost him to get fired because, again, all he did was expose what was on the inside of the newsrooms. Somebody called up the other day. This news item I thought was important. He called up twice, and I kind of dismissed him as just being a kook, even though he called up just to be a pain in the behind. What was his name? Paul? He was talking about how much he cannot stand J.D. Vance and how he likes Marco Rubio. Nothing against that. But I saw this report, and I thought it was worth noting because Paul was so interested in making it clear that he couldn't stand J.D. Vance. And if you were listening to the show that day, I told you that J.D. Vance, it was his election to lose in 2028. Well, it looks like polling has already started on him. And according to polling data of some 1,400 registered voters, it looks like J.D. Vance against Pete Buttigieg is 44-43, with 13% undecided. J.D. Vance against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He beats her by 3 points, 44-41%. And if he were to face off against greasy Gavin Newsom of California, well, the margin is 45-42 J.D. Vance. That's the recent polling data for J.D. Vance against three people who are more than likely a shoo-in as the Democrat nominee. 7 Connecticut universities have campus speech policies that restrict free speech in some aspect, according to a recent report released by the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. That's a FIRE. FIRE. A free speech advocacy organization recently released their 2025 report spotlighting speech codes on college campuses. While the number of schools earning red light scores, there are a number of them that would get red light scores, meaning that they have at least one policy that substantially restricts free speech. They declined from the previous year. None of the Connecticut schools got a red report. However, the Central Connecticut State University, Southern Connecticut State University, the University of Connecticut, also known as UConn, Yale University, Trinity College, and Wesleyan College all received a yellow light rating. According to the report, a yellow light means the school maintains policies that could easily be applied to suppress protected speech or maintains policies that, while clearly restricting freedom of speech, restrict relatively narrow categories of speech. Narrow categories of speech. And we already knew that here in Connecticut anyway. Now for the stupidest thing I read today.
Yes, you do. Stupid as can be. This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
Get ready.
Just over a year ago, I launched my campaign for President of the United States. 107 days, traveling the country, fighting for our future. The shortest presidential campaign in modern history. It was intense, high stakes, and deeply personal for me and for so many of you. Since leaving office, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on those days, talking with my team, my family, my friends, and pulling my thoughts together. In essence, writing a journal that is this book, 107 Days. With candor and reflection, I've written a behind-the-scenes account of that journey. I believe there's value in sharing what I saw, what I learned, and what I know it will take to move forward. In writing this book, one truth kept coming back to me. Sometimes the fight takes a while, but I remain full of hope, and I remain clear-eyed. I will never stop fighting to make our country reflect the very best of its ideals, always on behalf of the people. So thank you for being in this fight with me. I am forever grateful, and I cannot wait for you to read this, and I'll see you out there. Take care.
I'm sure you all could recognize that voice. That is none other than Vice President and presidential candidate Kamala Harris. Of course, after her loss, has written a book called 107 Days. The beauty of it is that people immediately responded online to the fact that she's written a book. Let me read a couple of them for you. Nick Sorter writes, trying to sell some books to pay down your $5 million debt to Beyonce. For that endorsement, writes Nick Sorter. Another one writes, should have titled it, luckily voters didn't get to see more of me or I would have lost even more. Dan Rutherford writes, 107 bottles of vodka on the wall. That should be the title in his view. Jim Hansen writes, I can't wait to hear the inside story about how you burned $1.5 billion in 107 days and accomplished absolutely nothing. That one's good. Another person writes, no thank you, I've already become unburdened, and I would like to keep it that way. Lastly, Patriot Paul writes, I won't be able to read it. Pop-up pictures and images of Venn diagrams and yellow school buses. So everybody's ripping on it. It will probably be a bestseller because the book publisher will probably buy a bunch of copies of it in the beginning, and then they'll give it away. So, I thought it was the stupidest thing I read today. There you go. What can you say? 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Fred. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good. So what prompted me to call was your two words, they look vaccinated. Now, oh, dude, don't back up from that. First of all, if someone's wearing a mask, they're vaccinated. And
that's right.
Got a booster. If someone's walking with a cane and they never used to, that's part of the vaccinated look. And then by the by, it seems to shrivel people up. I mean, there's a lot of placebo out there. parenthetically, you got to go back to that anthro word that you passed over, which was a good move, anthro, and then you just kept talking.
Yeah, I couldn't. First of all, it was jumbled, and the page cut off exactly at that part where it was.
I'm sorry.
So I was like, I didn't know. I thought I had it, but I was just like, what the heck is that word? I couldn't even make it out. So
I thought you just weren't taking the shot.
No, it was just like what? And I thought I had it, but it was like it didn't look like it was clear, so I didn't want to screw it up.
Okay, excellent. And one thing from yesterday, you abbreviated it nicely. That's the pot calling the kettle. Okay, of course, the pot calling the kettle black.
Yes.
Now, I have an addendum on that because I get accused of that.
Oh.
I call everybody all kinds of names. One way or another. I smoke pot before noon, but I'll call you a dirtbag, absolutely. But so who better than the pot to call the kettle black based on the axiom that it takes one to know one?
Indeed.
And let me wrap it up with that another half a point. I'm actually working on like a Ben Proto poem, but it's not quite ready. So just let me set it up that like I got attacked by a junkie 3 years ago, and it ended up he won the battle and lost the war. It shut him down. 2 weeks of me walking around with cuts on my face, an arm in a sling, and everybody knows me and said, what happened? And I told him, and his revenue stream dried up. And, he did get arrested. He didn't do it. He never went to trial. But anyway, my point was everyone had this guy for like Black Rambo, a Buddhist, and he was someone who would hit a 68-year-old skinny old white man in the face with a piece of concrete is who he was. And I just want to make the point that, like, how many, to reiterate it, how many, Mark said it yesterday, how many Jonathans did we never hear of because their answer to the question, how do you plan to raise $500,000 by November, was insufficient? And that's all we have is guys like that.
Yeah,
so,
I know. It's funny. It's so swampy. It's disgusting. But you know what? I'll tell you this. After Mark started posting what Jonathan said on this show, the response has been overwhelming, and I'm loving it because it's like there is a fed-up nature in this that we can really capitalize on, and I mean that in a positive way, not a negative one. It's not one to exploit.
Let me close with this. The toxic triumvirate of Ben Proto, William Tong, and Mary Fay. Somebody yelled timber 3 times. All right.
You got it, boss man. You got it. Let's speak to the aforementioned Mark in West Hartford. How are you, sir?
I don't have much time. So first of all, I got to tell you, when you played that clip of Kamala, I was thinking, remember when she went to South America to find the root cause of the problem with the border? Instead of going to the border?
Yeah.
I was just thinking, now she should find the root cause of how she lost the election by actually visiting the border.
Right. That would actually be. I would do my book signing from there.
She could go find the root cause. Hey, you need to have a feature.
Yeah.
I don't know how you set it up, but questions that Connecticut's media isn't asking. And I know you said you're going to talk about it, but nobody has asked Mayor Arunan or Aralapalem why he was gunning for somebody from the LGBTQ community. A couple months ago, it was a gay black male from Philadelphia. They didn't vet, found out he was a problem child down there, so they skipped him. Now they had a Latina lesbian from Boston. She was out last week, and now he settles for a 70-something-year-old white straight male in Ravenna, which is great. I'm happy for my relatives and friends.
Mark, can I make you feel? Can I make you feel a little better about our relationship? Because I know you probably don't know this, but I want to tell you a little secret behind my sauce. Okay, I actually do read your post, but I want you to know this because you probably don't. I really, really do take the stuff that you write into consideration. That point you just made is one of my major focuses on that story. And the reason why is because when you posted it on X, I immediately related to it because I have a personal story that is exactly what the point you're making, is that how Ravenna becomes the chief after all of that nonsense about getting this person and that person. So I really do. I take what you write into consideration. I was like, you know what? That's a good point. So just know that when you write that kind of stuff, I'm really, really reading into it and going, That makes
I'm
sense.
going to tag you with everything now. Pictures of my cat, my dog. You're going to get it all now. I'm glad now.
So no, I respect. Listen, I respect your intellect in this because you are asking the right questions. This is the one thing nobody brought up afterwards by saying to the mayor, "You ended up back where you already were." It's the most important part of the story. So I'm going to talk to Rutkowski. James is going to be on the show at 4:00, so we're going to talk to him about that.
Awesome. Okay. I can't wait to hear his opinion on all this.
You got it, boss man. Thank you. All right. Like I said, Sgt James Rutkowski, the president of the Hartford Police Union, is going to join us at 4:00. We'll talk about the hiring of interim chief, now chief, James Ravella, who's in his 70s, because you might recall the last time we talked to James, it was known that he was, Ravella may not take it because of his age. He may have aged out in his own view, but he's taking the job. We'll talk a little bit about that when we return. Stick around. We got news, we got views, and we've got weather coming up and traffic with Jason Caterina in the BPS Traffic Center. So stand by. We'll be back. It's Reese on the radio. 1080. As appropriate as that tag could possibly be, let's get into it. Caller earlier was talking about the Russia scandal. This is very, very big, ladies and gentlemen. And people have been dragged into this of their own doing because they publicly lied, saying that information that was coming out years ago, drip of information coming out years ago, they said was a lie. And now that we have our hands on the Durham report, which many people are trying to suggest was a nothing burger, turns out to be far worse than many expected. Now, I need to get this, really, really drill this down. James Clapper and John Brennan wrote an op-ed yesterday. And the reason why it was released was to subvert, to draw attention away from the documents they knew would be released today, because somebody leaked to them that this was coming out today. So they had to sort of come out with an answer before the dirty deeds came to light. Now, you have to ask yourself, if you're one of those people, why would they be writing this? If they did nothing wrong, just lawyer up. In fact, James Clapper went so far as to say on Kristen Stewart's show, or whatever her name is, on CNN, he had already lawyered up. So why is he talking? Because the goose is cooked. What's being revealed cannot stop them from being indicted, cannot stop them from being charged with crimes. When you lawyer up, you shut up. At the advice of your attorney, keep your mouth shut. But these guys are sacrificial at this point. They must protect the golden goose, and that is Barack Obama. That's why they're talking. Barack Obama's goose must be safe. He just has to. So the Washington Examiner did an article called Fact-Checking Brennan and Clapper's False Russiagate Narrative in the New York Times op-ed. We'll get into that in a second. Getting the media, because you know you have a fawning, bootlicking media that's going to cover Brennan and Clapper's behind because they hate Trump. They're going to sit up here and say, yeah, it's not true, this, that, and the third. We'll break that down. Because a lot of people in the chat room who are on the left, who are trying to also protect Barack Obama, and by the way, are you being paid? You protectors of Barack Obama who are in my chat room, are you being paid? Are you protecting him because he cares about you? You always make that claim about me and Donald Trump. Is that why you do it? Is that why you defend Barack Obama? Because he cares about you? He told you that? So I want to play this audio for you. And for those of you who are watching at ReeseOnTheRadio.com or on social media, you get to see it yourself. This is Colonel John Mills. Colonel John Mills. He is the Director of Cybersecurity at the Secretary of Defense's office. And what he revealed to the Epoch Times has rarely been seen and or heard of, even though he wrote a book about it.
2 days after the election in 2016, I was called up on the NSA phone. The person said I had to be on the intelligence community assessment that was assembling to finalize the Russia narrative because we were going to prove that Trump was a Russian asset and we were going to delay or block the inauguration of Donald J. Trump for the first term. I just couldn't believe it.
This is what you were told?
This is what I was told on the phone. So this was a deep state coup from the beginning, that it actually started in early 2016. We went through the process in November. The final product came out in the first few days of January 2017. But bottom line, the supposed top secret review, there was nothing there to show that Russia was trying to manipulate the campaign or the outcome of the election in the favor of Donald J. Trump, that the Trump campaign was somehow colluding with Russia. There was no evidence of anything.
Director of Cybersecurity. He was told to agree with the assessment. But who wrote the assessment? Right? Who wrote it? Who was in charge of it? Well, John Mills tells us.
So when the document, the Intel Community Assessment, came back to the Department of Defense, because that's what happens in these reviews, the team members, the document, the final end product goes back to all the departments and agencies for review and finalization and approval. When it came back, my recommendation was non-concur. There was no evidence to support any of these assertions. And I was told, John, stand down. No, you don't need to complete the staffing. The secretary, which is Ash Carter, who's dead now, had already signed off because Comey and Brennan were personally hands on keyboard writing this assessment. You never have a director of CIA or a director of FBI personally writing the Intel Community Assessment. That was very brief. It was absolutely nuts. It was absolutely nuts, and it was some of the most outrageous things I'd ever said or heard in government service, uniformed or civilian. This was insanity. The voice on the other end, I know exactly who it was, and I put their name to the Durham investigation. John, we're going to finalize the Russia narrative, prove Donald J. Trump is a Russian asset, and delay or block the inauguration.
Now, of course, we know what the outcome was, but the damage had already been done. And we know because we've already seen the emails, one in particular that came from the senior vice president of Open Society. Yeah, that one. Who wrote an email to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And in that email, and I'll surmise and I'll just paraphrase what was in it, was that, yeah, we're a go. We're going to approve pretty much what Hillary Clinton has been able to get through the Steele dossier, and the FBI and the CIA are going to pour more oil on the fire. They were going to assist Hillary Clinton in what she was already trying to do, and that get people in the press to believe that Donald Trump was a Russian asset. The intelligence society, the intelligence community was jumping on board. Hey, Hillary, great idea. We'll back up the Steele dossier. And we'll change the assessment that we had all summer, that Donald Trump had no involvement with Russians and Russians had no involvement at all. We'll change that after the election to see if we can stop him from being inaugurated. We'll put oil on the fire. That is a fact now because we have the email. We have the email that was sent. And all the people who have been reached so far are mum's the word. Where's Obama today? Where's his spokesperson today? Will his spokesperson say, go to our earlier statement? I doubt it. Where's everybody screaming and hollering? Let's get to the fact check now. According to Durham and Clapper, they say, let's recap. The Trump administration's claims focus on the intelligence community's findings about Russian interference in 2016, U.S. presidential election, which were published in January of 2016. Well, what they're trying to say here is that Russia was involved in interfering in the election, and their description, if you will, of interference were Facebook ads to the tune of $105,000 or $150,000, while both campaigns were spending billions. This is what they called interference and proof thereof. Well, Washington Examiner writes, this is not, in fact, what the Trump administration has focused on. Gabbard and Ratcliffe have not questioned the intelligence community's findings that Russia meddled in the 2016 election. Instead, their focus has been on an additional conclusion that the Obama administration drew, that Russia's intention was to help Trump win. Memos released by the CIA and the DNI show that this was not actually true and that Brennan, Clapper, and others had virtually no evidence to support the conclusion that Russia, President Vladimir Putin, preferred Trump. In fact, they had far more reliable evidence that suggested Putin expected Secretary of State Hillary Clinton to win, and that Putin even had concerns about a Trump presidency. Brennan and Clapper also write, while some external critiques have noted that parts of the Russia investigation could have been handled better, multiple thorough, years-long reviews of the assessment have validated its findings and the rigor of its analysis. Years-long reviews of how the Crossfire Hurricane investigation came to be have not been validated. The Trump administration has not validated the Obama administration's actions. In fact, almost all of them had found significant misconduct and subsequent poor judgment, particularly at the FBI under then-Director James Comey. 2 reviews from the House Permanent Select Committee and Intelligence, and 1 from the CIA in a lessons learned review, found severe problems with the intelligence community's assessment at the heart of the current controversy. Those reviews found that Brennan, in particular, set aside the typical safeguards that ensure analytical rigor in order to reach a conclusion that Putin wanted to help Trump with no credible evidence. That's in the Durham report, that they were cooking the books. They also write, Brennan and Clapper, the most noteworthy was the unanimous bipartisan 5-volume report issued by the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, whose Republican members at the time included Marco Rubio, now the Secretary of State, and Senator Tom Cotton, now the committee chairman. That you've heard repeated everywhere. MSNBC, CNN, regular news. Yeah, Marco Rubio even agreed with this assessment. The Washington Times writes this. This is not the most noteworthy review of Russiagate, but it is one that the Democrats and their allies in the media have cited to defend themselves against what Gabbard and Ratcliffe are uncovering. That's because the Senate Intelligence Committee report did not really focus on questions about whether Trump was targeted by the intelligence community or that law enforcement, or by law enforcement. The 5-volume report examined Russia's activities into the 2016 election, including its hacking operations or its use of social media. And these activities are not in dispute. They're conflating the two. One volume of the report did look at the drafting of the ICA in question, and it did not find problems. However, the Senate Intelligence Committee investigators did not appear to have access to the same underlying evidence that Ratcliffe has exposed, including internal emails that directly contradict what Brennan has said publicly about the assessment, such as his denials that the Steele dossier was used in its creation, which are the documents that have been revealed today. So no one knew. So the Select Committee never had these documents. Why? Because they were found by Kash Patel in burn bags. That's where they were. We get back. We'll talk a little bit more about this and also the Washington Examiner's expose a little further, plus your phone calls. We'll be back. It's Reese on the Radio on WTIC News Talk 1080. Let's get to this email. This is, again, covering exactly my point about all of this. From Leonard Bernardo. Allegedly, this is an email that was sent, as were others, to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was then the head of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. Hillary Rodham Clinton approved Julia's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections. That should distract people from our own missing email, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. The point is making the Russians play a U.S. domestic issue, say something like a critical infrastructure threat for the election, to feel menace, since both President of the United States and Vice President of the United States have acknowledged the fact that the intelligence community would speed up searching for evidence that is regrettably still unavailable. However, there seems to be signs, GRU, penetration, they appear heavily or hardly skilled, incompetent, bumbling idiots. And somebody called them. In absence of direct evidence, CrowdStrike and Threat Connect will supply the media, and GRU will hopefully carry on to give more facts. That from Leonard Bernardo, Senior Vice President of Open Society. That's all you need to know. Don't tell me otherwise. It's a huge scandal, my friends. Let's get to some weather, traffic, and news. Jason Caterina's got weather. And Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. How we doing, sir? It is, because I'm here. Let's get to our guest today, who's got, of course, some exciting news to tell us. Sgt James Rutkowski, the Hartford Police Union president, is on the line with us now. How you doing, sir? Did you forget the hotline number, or did you not know where to find it?
No, I forgot the hotline number. That's my bad. How you doing?
No, it's okay, man. How you been, buddy?
Good. Not bad. Busy. Happy about the appointment of our new police chief, James Rutkowski.
Well, he's not really the new police chief. He's just the same old police chief. You know, it's that. What's the old Who song? Same as the old boss.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that in a little bit, because it goes without saying that Mayor Arunin has kind of, in the public eye, no matter how you slice it, kind of made a mess of this. Now, I don't want you to co-sign that. I'm just going to tell you from my point of view and many others that he made a mess of this. He did anything and everything to go down this ridiculous road of a diversity hire that was supposed to be to the benefit of the folks in Hartford. And that's great. That's noble. I'm sure his intentions were good. But why come back to Chief Ravella? Can you explain that, or should we, or do you not care?
No, I think it's an important point, right? I look at we can't have this conversation and not acknowledge, a misstep in January. And then, Ravella comes in February as an interim chief. And I mean this sincerely. You figure it took Mayor Arunin probably 6 months to figure it out. And in my opinion, he got it right. And I look at that and go, if everybody in the world could make a mistake and then figure it out and then come back with a winning formula, we might be a lot better off.
But he took a lot of time. And what I mean by this is, look, and I take this from a very, very personal point of view. I don't know if Chief Ravella looks at it this way, because if I'm, and correct me if I'm wrong, with our discussion a few times back, Ravella wasn't going to take it over because was it said in some way, either on the record or off the record, that he had reached this point where he was just going to go home and sort of spend his latter part of his life with his family, with his wife, and kind of take it easy? Was that known?
Yes, I think one of the conversations that we have often is the chief was making the decision whether he wanted to be at the beach or at the pool.
Right, right, exactly. And so then to have this happen, and let me tell you where I'm coming from, and a lot of people sort of share this sentiment, is that the mayor went in all of these directions and it just kept falling flat on its face. In my personal experience, and I'll tell this briefly, I worked for a company called Tel Aviv Car Service in Manhattan. It was my first job when I moved to the city. And I was an assistant dispatcher, a job that normally you have to, you kind of have, there's a degree of nepotism in order to get the job. But I learned from the ground up as a guy who was paying $8 an hour, and I did the job. They wouldn't pay me as an assistant dispatcher. They kept paying me at $8 an hour. And then they literally went over my head instead of giving me the job once I learned and brought somebody from the outside. The guy was there a week, and he walked off the job to go to lunch and never came back. And when they came and offered me the job, I told them, go spit. I said, go pound sand. I said, you're not going to go through all of that. You brought in a guy from outside and hired them and not even give me the job after you saw me in there doing it at the receptionist wage. You're not going to give it to me. You brought in a guy from outside. Ravella's got a right to kind of look at the mayor and go, hey, buddy.
But he can look at all of us like that, right? You're talking about 40 years of law enforcement experience. He's, I think he's in the early 70s. He's been through this gauntlet a couple times. And to have that stability of someone who can build relationships and have those conversations. And again, we'll go back to, January was a fiasco. And apparently July is the fix to that. And I appreciate that. Maybe it took the mayor a little bit of time to realize the valuable nature of someone of Chief Ravella's caliber, because he hadn't really been exposed to that with Chief Doty or with Interim Chief Howell, and then have somebody come in and really lay out the playing field and go, this is kind of what a chief does. Because you look at the level of experience of the mayor, he didn't have any really experience in that role. He didn't know what a police chief looked like. And, you look at that and go, hey, this is how many times, and I'm to blame him for this too, how many times have you walked into, and again, we learned, you walk into a certain area and you think that this is the way it's going to run because that's the best thing in the world. And then you try to make a move and it's an absolute, a fart in church. And you're like, what happened? Well, you didn't talk to the people you were supposed to talk to.
Exactly.
You have that little guidance to say, hey, listen, a little bit, maybe more, maybe on the right, a little less left. And maybe that's how we got here. And the result is, something, maybe it took time for that maturation process overall. But I think the maturation process is happening. And I look at what's best for the community. And I look who we have there for stabilization, for leadership. I think it's a good move.
No, I think it's a good move, too. I don't think we're poo-pooing the fact that it's a good move. But I think that there's a lot of this, again, look, these faculty lounge decisions that always drive me crazy. And again, I'm probably, to be honest with you, my back is a little up on the administration writ large. No matter what administration it is, the guys don't talk to the people who are on the ground level. This should have been a conversation with Chief Ravella from the start. It should have used his leadership to find a person who is going to be perfect to lead the men and women of the Hartford Police Department, instead of a conversation with a bunch of yucks who is like, I think this would be great for PR if we get ourselves a Latina lesbian or a black homosexual. This is stupid. This is about people's lives. This is about making Hartford safe, not about whether or not it looks good on a resume.
No, and I'll agree with you that I look at that and go, maybe I'll go back to what I said earlier, the maturation process, is that you realize that we're looking at merit, right? Some sort of meritocracy here, going, what's best for the community? Because we can sit down there and check boxes and put people into positions that we think that are looking good, but ultimately those companies are going to fail. And maybe the mayor did have an epiphany, because I do know that Chief Ravella was part of the interviewing of other people that they had lined up to come in to take this position. And how they fell apart, I don't know. I wasn't privy to that. But I look at the result of it and went, okay, maybe it is. Maybe we're looking towards a little bit on the merit side of things now and going, this is what we need, instead of putting the community at risk with checking a box and going, this is my idea. I think this is good. Maybe the conversations with the chief about, hey, this is what a police department needs. This is the direction that they need to go. And, we've gone through all these processes, and maybe the mayor did. Maybe the mayor sat down one day and said, listen, we've talked to all these people, and holy Christmas, you're the best fit for the job. And maybe, Chief Ravella said yes, and maybe he said, I have to check with my wife. I don't know how that conversation happened.
Well, listen, you've been promising me you're going to get the chief on the program. Please let him know that now he's the chief. He's got to come on now. So tell him I promise I won't put him up against the mayor. That's not what I want to congratulate him.
I think, Reese, I think you would enjoy that conversation. I think you guys would have a great episode having a conversation.
Yeah, I think, like I said, look, I understand that he understands the gig. I know that, look, the confidence in the Hartford police, in him, and his confidence in them is going to be a great mesh to get the job done and get it done right. You knew that. You talked about that from the beginning. You were happy that he was placed as interim, that he was going to be there. You raved about him, as did other officers who were talking about his leadership. They understood exactly how important he was to the role. He had to be brought back because, of course, he was a significant part of that in making that whole system and that department whole. So we're glad that he's there. But there is going to come a time where Chief Ravella is going to have to go. I don't know how long he's going to be there, but here's my last question, and hopefully you can answer it for me. Will he be a part of the process with the mayor in choosing his replacement instead of, spanning the globe for some box to tick now that we've gone through this nonsense?
I believe, again, that maturation process of seeking counsel and looking at Chief Ravella and what he has to offer in that selection process, I believe the mayor will. I really do.
I hope he does. Because no offense, that people were outraged at how silly this was, because it's just, look, I mean, it's an embarrassment to the mayor. I know he doesn't like that PR, that every time he's choosing someone, they end up not being a fit or having to step out because of some other issue. But for crying out loud, this is just one of those things, especially when we're talking about the police. The same thing we do if we were fire or any other, sort of a public worker system, that you would talk to the people involved and ask them who's the best fit for the job, who's done, in other words, work internally instead of externally. So one, you make it feel like when you're in the job, you got an opportunity to rise, but you also don't feel like you're being undermined by bringing somebody on the outside who doesn't know the temperature of the room.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was watching in the flipping through channels a while ago, and I'm watching, that show where they swap the husband or the wife out into different houses.
Yeah,
and everybody kind of walks around.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is. It's like you look at that and go, the house doesn't run the right way.
Yes, it never does.
It never does. And you're like, okay, well, that's when you ask, and that's when you sit down there and go, okay, who are we looking to segue in here?
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I still think it's important. Building from the ground up, taking that person that started as an officer, putting them all the way through the ranks, and then putting them in charge of where the department is going to go. That intimate knowledge is priceless.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Sgt James Rutkowski, the president of the Hartford Police Union. Thank you, boss man. As always, man, you're always welcome.
Reese, I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.
You got it, sir. He talked about that trading spouses thing, and that's such a good point. So many public officials do this thing I've never understood, and a lot of people do this as well. It drives me off the wall. This idea that things are mutually substitutable. You might have remembered we talked about how Governor Lamont immediately talked about reforms in the police in the state of Connecticut after the events of George Floyd. And many police officers told me personally that was a slap in the face by the governor to suggest that what happened with Derek Chauvin was in some way indicative of police. Even if Derek Chauvin was guilty or not guilty, or, this was procedure or not, but he was using Derek Chauvin as a template to say that's who all of us are. And that mutually substitutable nonsense is what I don't get. And that played a huge role in this whole finding a police chief for Hartford. That's what it was about. I could just pluck anybody out of anywhere. I can just, like Brian Shackman's darting across the Connecticut, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Not Brian. Brian's thing is brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I love that idea. Trust me. I've actually tried it. I love it. But you can't do that when you're picking a police chief, okay? Finding out where you're going to visit so you can introduce new fans or new people into parts of Connecticut, great idea. Picking your police chief, your fire chief, you're not going to go darting around the globe to find somebody. Our next police chief is from Copenhagen. Bozos. And I know you listen, Mayor. Look, if it angers you, don't be mad at me. You did this. Don't be angry at anybody but yourself. You ended up right back where you started. And that's actually getting somebody who understands the police, understands the men and women who are in uniform in Hartford. It took you a long time to get to the place where we already were. So don't get mad at being criticized. You screwed up. You screwed up. And just because you got it right now doesn't mean you shouldn't be admonished for it or called out for it. Get it right the next time. Because Ravella can't stay forever. He needs to get home to his family too. Enjoy the rest of his life. He's given a lot of his time to the service. Let's show him some respect. Let's let him choose the next guy, not you. Put the dart down. Seriously. You're not good at this. Just at least in that. You might be great at other things. At this thing, you're not good at. Just be able to accept that. I may not know what I'm doing. And that's the role of a true leader. To recognize where you got it wrong. I hope you learned. We all know he won't. We all know he won't. Trying to help. Let's get another check of our weather and traffic. We got Jason. Oh, no, not Jason Catterway. Who's in for weather today? Joey?
I just forgot his name.
Yeah, okay. Somebody's got weather, but Mark Christopher's definitely got traffic in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark. I got to remember, I got to put my darn mic up. And I want to thank James Rutkowski for calling in last minute because he had something else that was going on and it ended up early, so he was almost supposed to be on tomorrow, so I'm thankful that he was on today. Stand by at about 5 o'clock. We got Hollywood news. We also got Negro Nonsense that goes into what the opening monologue was about. We also got what had happened was, which we might do early. We'll keep it as it is. We'll talk about all of that and much, much more. I got to get into, in a minute, this John Larson audio. Because, let's just be honest, the election season has begun in Connecticut, just as. And we're going to be inundated with stories about it. And we just need to get on our election on, as it were. But John Larson, of course, is being asked about his challengers. And he said something, which goes to something in an earlier call today about no one in the media. Oh, in fact, it was Mark in West Hartford talking about nobody in the media asking anything. Because when I hear something, I keep saying to myself, and gosh, boy, if you guys only knew. When I tell you that I can't wait to get there, I can't wait to get there. Because I am going to scour these places so that I can get a microphone in front of these guys, So when they say something, I am going to ask a question. That when they say something that deserves a question and must be asked, I'm going to ask. And I'm going to play it here on the show. I am going to shout, Reese on the radio, WTIC. Let me ask you a question, sir. Or ma'am. Or whatever you are. I got to ask you, when you just said such and such, what did you mean? Instead of the cameras just catching it and then getting the soundbite to put on the news. They've got to ask the question. You've got to make them answer. When you hear what John Larson says, you got to ask yourself, what the hell did he mean by that? And it was right there, plain as day. I would have been in the comment sections at WTNH and just going, what did that mean? And it was thoughtful. You can hear. Now, I know people are going to rag about Larson and saying that, he had that little freeze up not too long ago. Maybe he's not there. That's going to be hurtful anyway. I think, to be honest with you, if I'm going to call it, I'll call it. I don't think he wins re-election. I don't think he does. Now, if these chumps don't have the guts to call out his age, if they don't have the guts to call out that not just he's out of touch, but say that he's unfit, you deserve to lose. You want to win, right? You're the new guy on the block. Stop lying. And that means omitting the facts. Larson's up there. It's time for him to go. If you really want to win, if you really want to capture the heartbeat of your party, you're going to have to tell him, sorry, Larson, your time has passed. But when I play this, if they're smart, if his opponents are smart, they'll be asking the same question I asked when I heard it. Stick around. Let's get another check of weather and traffic. Matt Benz, who's got the keys to my Beamer, is filling in for Jason Caterina with weather, and Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark. Who am I? In a rush. Pass me the keys to my truck. Yeah, Matt Benz, if you're listening, that one's for you, sir. It's Reese on the radio, WTIC News Talk 1080. John Larson was asked about his challenger, Luke Bronin, getting into the race. And he was asked, of course, by a whole bevy of reporters. And he talked about change. And when I heard this and watched it, actually, on WTNH, I said to myself, what? That doesn't bother you? What does he mean by that? Now, Bronin is talking this stuff about changing of the guard, right? He cares about things that are new and fresh. Climate change, that's old, Bronin. That's not new. It's old. Please stop telling yourself that that's like a new plight that's been around since I was a baby. And now he's talking about AI. Like, what are you going to do with AI, Bronin? What's the thing that Democrats are going to do with AI? You tried that already. But listen to John Larson here, and let's see if you come up with the same question that I did after he said it.
Is there out there a feeling in the country about winds of change? Yes, there is, and you can't ignore it and deny that. So the question is, are you part of the change? I would answer yes, from the perspective that we're the ones that can create the change and do it not only now, but when we're elected.
Now, I heard that, and I said, what? Create the change? Who creates the change? See, Bronin's talking about change happening. Like, as we get older, as time goes on, change takes place. People have different perspectives. With technology, we learn new things. Right? With intelligence, we gain new perspectives. Oh, that's not true. This is. That is a natural change. But Larson is talking about creating the change. And not one person said to him, what are you talking about creating change? Change is not created. What you're talking about is force. What does that mean? How do we create the change? By getting elected. Because that's what that is. And that's what he believes in. Hey, look, don't take my word for it. You understand how this works. Where we are in our society, all of this unnatural behavior, all of it. This has not been progressive. This has not been grassroots. When we find out deep down, we find out that all of it is artificial, especially when it comes from their side. It has never been a natural progression. The change in boys' behaviors was forced. It wasn't natural. Boys just didn't decide to be soft. They were shamed into it. They were forced into that shame. Boys didn't automatically out of nowhere felt uncomfortable about their boyishness. They were constantly beat over the head by a system that refused to adapt to them, told them that they were in charge, that promoted in a very unorganic way the plight of women. More and more girls started going to college, more and more boys were being left behind. That wasn't natural. None of it was. Everything you've seen that has been the downfall of our great society has been forced upon us. Everyone has been told to heal. That said the natural order of things were bad. And we couldn't push back on them. And we were told that those things were change. The crazy part about it is that in order for us to accept that change, we were told that, what's wrong with you? You don't like change? What's wrong with change? And as I've said on this microphone and many others, nobody said change was good except for them. And when they do talk about change, they're never talking about change that favors us. When they talk about change, they talk about change that's against us, against the natural order of things. Yeah, it doesn't matter. LGBTQ. Sure. Have we always had them as a part of our society? Absolutely. But we've never had them on the level that we've seen today. And we've never seen the uptick that we've seen in the last 10 years. It was all of a sudden flatline. All of a sudden, whoo, hockey stick, way up. Why? Was that natural? Was that organic? No change has ever happened like that, ever. In the history of our world, that has never happened. There has always been progressive change. But not in that way. So what Larson's talking about there, which nobody had the guts in there to ask him, was, what do you mean make change? How do you make change? Larson, you're 77 years old. I couldn't trust you to change a light bulb. What are you talking about?
Is there out there a feeling in the country about winds of change? Yes, there is.
Yes, see? Winds of change. Natural.
And you can't ignore it and deny that. So the question is, are you part of the change? I would answer yes, from the perspective that we're the ones that can create the change.
So he's going to go against the wind. Because change, again, Larson is old enough to know that change is a natural thing. So to say that out loud as a politician, understanding where we are in our world, understanding who Bob Larson is, in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to Democrat change in our society, it was worth asking, what the hell are you talking about? People should be nervous about that. By the way, that should be disqualified, in my view. If I'm running against him, I'd make him own up to that. What are you talking about? What are you talking about forcing down the throats of people in Connecticut? And by the way, anyone who doesn't challenge him on that is complicit. They're okay with that. Now, you may think that I'm making a big deal out of nothing, but mark my words, folks. He said that for a reason. He's being asked why he's being challenged. He's being asked about his challengers. He is trying to make a case to why he belongs. And he is saying that as an elected official, he has the power. And he's had the power for a great deal of time. And he is sending out, let's use their term, a dog whistle to his constituents. You want that change, don't you? You know, the one that's been so elusive, you know, with people talking about their freedoms, you know, pushing back on us, but using the word freedom. I can get that change for you, folks, that pushback.
Part of the change? I would answer yes, from the perspective that we're the ones that can create the change and do it not only now, but when we're elected.
You can create the change. Let's try this out. Let's go to Rob in Meriden. Hello, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing good. Oh, that was quick. Yeah, I'm talking about change. And I don't want you to think this has anything to do with George Floyd or, you know, don't twist this whole thing around. But I don't know if you remember a long, long time ago, there's a place in Texas called Uvalde's.
Yeah, Uvalde.
And
Yeah,
I think
sure.
I think they want to change. The public wants to change the way those police officers responded at that particular time. But with your microphone, I get the impression you're saying don't change it. How about the police officers?
That doesn't seem to make sense. That doesn't seem to make sense. Why are we? Is it the anniversary of the Uvalde?
No, you're talking about Larson. Larson was talking about changing things and just go with the flow. That's the impression I got. So I think there is time for changes. And Uvalde, like I said,
well, wait a minute. Let's start. Wait. Hold on. Let's get back to your earlier point. You said, "Do you think that there's time for change?" You sound like Bob Larson. You said there's time. Let me answer. Let me ask you the question first. You're jumping ahead.
So Uvalde's police did correct.
Time for change, sir, means that unnatural. A time for change means everybody gets up and they go in another direction.
Okay, so the Uvalde's police did correct.
No. What I'm asking you is, and you refuse.
No.
You're not answering.
You're
not answering my question. When you say it's time for change, you're under the impression that things just change by our will. That we just go, all right, we're changing now.
The people see it. The people, the public see it.
That's not how change works, sir.
Like,
maybe you missed my whole monologue.
You ain't changing nothing. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's okay. You can't change anything through will. You can change your opinion, but that usually progresses. I like this girl today. But, you know, she kind of gets on my nerves. I'm not sure if I like her today. You can like a girl. You can like anything. I like strawberry ice cream. And then one day you have some strawberry ice cream and you kind of realize, When I was a kid, and speaking of strawberries, I'll tell you this. This is absolutely true. When I was a kid, all I ever wanted was strawberries on my ice cream. But I could never get it. My mom would never get it because it was too expensive. No, you can't have strawberries on your ice cream. You know how expensive that stuff is? But I saw anybody who was everybody having strawberries on their ice cream. And I said, I want that too because everybody else got it. And when I was old enough, the first thing I did when I got some ice cream, the guy said, do you like anything on it? I said, yes, I want strawberries. I'm paying for it myself. My mom can't stop me. And I got strawberries on my ice cream, a load of them. In fact, I asked for extra. End result, I hate strawberries. I don't eat them today. I'm not a big deal. Not that I'm allergic to them or anything. I don't like them. They're too tart. I don't even understand what the big fuss is about. What was my big deal? It was because I couldn't have it. That was all it is. Because my mom said no. And if my mom said no, it means that it must be good. And my mom's an evil person who won't let me have ice cream with strawberries. And then I got it. I realized I even like strawberries. And every time I have ice cream today, I never get strawberries on them. I won't even touch strawberries. Chocolate covers strawberries. No interest at all. And I love chocolate, except for ice cream. But regular chocolate, yes, I do. But nope. Dip a strawberry in chocolate, have at them. Won't touch them. Even romantically. I still haven't bought any for the wife. She loves them, to be honest. But yeah, that whole thing about change, nonsense. Change happens Larson's talking about something much more sinister. Mark my words, folks. There's an and if you watch that video, watch the way his hand goes up. And he is referencing something sinister. He is. You got to ask him. It has to be asked. What are you talking about? What do you mean? How do you force change? You're just a politician. All right, we'll get into that. Donald says these Democrats come into the minority communities and talk a good talk, yet we see no major improvement for these communities. They then use these communities as stepping stones to achieve their political ambitions. I got a minute? Let's take a minute. Donald, let me explain something to you about politicians and government. If you believe that governments are here to improve your life, you misunderstand. Government is here not to do for you in the sense of making your life better. They are here to do your bidding. That's why they are referred to as public servants. They do what you ask them to do, not make your life better. They are not there to deliver things to you. They are there to get out of your way and to remove the roadblocks for you to have a better life. Lower your taxes. Make sure that you are not burdened with things that do not benefit you or are profitable to you and your family. To lower costs for you to be prosperous. They are not there to give you handouts and do your bidding in that sense. And do for you. They do your bidding. So when you do this whole thing about coming into your communities and talking a good talk about improvement, the only way a government official can improve your life is to stay out of it. That's how that works. I told you that when Murphy was walking through the state, saying what I can do for them. What can I do for Connecticut? I said, if you see him, tell him to get out of your way. See if he understands. Let's get another check on weather and traffic with Matt Benz and Mark Christopher. He's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
All right, Matt. Thank you very much, Reese.
It's Reese on the radio. Ask your doctor if common sense is right for you. On News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Oh, I totally forgot. Where in the heck did I put my... There it is, right there. It's time for Hollywood News. It's my favorite part of the show. I'm sorry. It's true. Now, you guys know Eddie Murphy used to rule the roost in Hollywood. And it's been a while since he's actually ruled the roost. You remember back in the 90s and the early 2000s, Eddie Murphy took over the role of Dr. Dolittle, made famous by Rex Harrison. He then did it again with the Nutty Professor films, made famous by Jerry Lewis. Well, the question is, can Eddie Murphy do it again? A role that was made famous by Peter Sellers is now being taken over by Murphy. That's none other than the Pink Panther films. Yes, Eddie Murphy will now take over the helm of the Pink Panther film. Now, this was apparently some idea that they were going to do years ago, where they were going to have sort of a kind of a Who Framed Roger Rabbit version of it, where Inspector Clouseau was supposed to be going after the cartoon version of Pink Panther, but that hasn't been really solidified yet. So in April of 2023, it was announced that after acquiring MGM, Amazon is developing a new addition to the franchise to form a movie and television series through their subsidiary, Amazon Studios, which is now called Amazon MGM Studios. It was later reported that Eddie Murphy is in talks to star in the film as Clouseau, which I think he just codified or certified recently in an interview, saying that he is going to take it over. So Eddie Murphy, can he pull off the trifecta? Because I'm not going to lie, he actually did make Dr. Dolittle. It was very profitable, as was the Nutty Professor films, very, very well received. So Pink Panther, Eddie Murphy, I don't know. Maybe it's a little too late for him to try it a third time. But because I didn't want that, whatever that Coming to America nonsense and the Axel F movies, those were complete bombs. Joey, I know you see. Did you see both of those? The Coming to America thing?
I love the Axel Foley movies.
Okay, no, so do I. Did you watch Axel F and Coming to America, the sequels?
No.
Okay, first of all, let's just start by saying the Coming to America thing should have never been done again.
He was already here.
What's that?
He was already here. I can do a sequel on something like that.
Yeah, the worst part about that was that first of all, that movie never needed to be remade or have a sequel because the most interesting characters would have technically have been dead based upon their age in the original.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't bring the old guys from the barbershop back 30 years later, almost 40 years later, and have those guys just as bouncy as anybody else. It was just ridiculous. Anyway,
it just proves that we can't come up with original thought in Hollywood.
It is. It's really, really bad. Now, I'm going to punch myself in the face because I'm going to ask, as we go to the weather and traffic with Matt Benz and Mark Christopher, the BPS Traffic Center.
Yes,
Please.
I did see Coming to America.
All right. Thank you, Jesus. I was wondering.
Was it McDougal's?
It's McDowell's.
McDowell's. Okay, that was McDowell's.
Which, by the way, incidentally, as a trivia question, McDowell's is now a pop-up restaurant all around the country.
Wow.
At certain anniversaries, they did one in Queens and they did one in Chicago. These pop-up restaurants called McDowell's actually show up, and they have the whole uniform and everything.
Now, the father in that was the father on Good Times, right?
James Amos.
He owned the
McDowell's.
restaurant. He owned McDowell's, and his daughter was gorgeous.
Sherry Headley.
Oh, man. Well, I don't know.
No.
I haven't seen her in a while, but
she was in the sequel recently.
I'm sure
she still looks great.
Has it going on.
Yeah, she's still great.
She had it going on in that movie. I'll tell you that.
I keep forgetting to get rid of that music. We're back. It's Reese on the Radio, NewsTalk 1080. In a second, stand by. We will get, of course, to nonsense. So stand by for that because I know you're all waiting for it. Let's get to the phones. 860-522-WTIC. From Danbury, Dr. Peter is on the line. How we doing, Doc?
I'm doing well. You?
I'm great. How can I help you today?
I want to thank you for your program and your very, very well-spoken and intelligently done. And I'm glad you don't take any garbage from anybody. Amen. But I pastor the First Baptist Church in Woodbury, and you've been talking about government, and everybody's talking about government. And I did a lot of opening prayers for back-to-back blue rallies and those type of things.
Sure.
And when Sandowski was running, Laura Levy and them, I read them a passage out of the Bible, which deals with our government, and it settles it clearly. It says over in Romans, and just bear with me for a minute. I'm not going to take too much of your time.
Okay.
It says, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God, and whosoever there resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to them damnation. But here's the part. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is a minister of God to thee for good. And I told those folks up there running for office, and everybody in office should know that God is in control, and they are ministers of God for good. And the purpose of government is to restrain sin.
That's
See,
right.
A man who is a Christian living for God, he's living a moral, holy life. But those who are outside of that, they need government. And that's why God created government, to restrain sin. And they are ministers of God, and they will give an account one day for their ministry and the office that they hold publicly to represent us. And I just wanted to say that.
Dr. Peter, it couldn't have been said better. That's why you were a man of the cloth, and I appreciate you. And I that resonates with me every bit of what you say. Again, we need to get back to that, and I wish these folks would recognize it. It's been far too long they understood their role, and it has to be preached over and over again. And as much as people may, turn their eyes up or turn their nose up to the preaching of that gospel, I will never, ever, ever walk away from it. So I appreciate you, Doctor.
Well, the Lord bless you, and you're in our prayers. You know, after I read that to them, they came to me after, and they shook my hand, and they said, we never even heard anything like that. And I told them, you're special to God. You're ministers of God, and you need to have a godly conscience. And if you're not going to go up to the Capitol in Connecticut with God on your conscience, don't go. Stay home.
That's
Do
right.
us all a favor.
That's right. Exactly. Thank you, Dr.
Reese,
Peter.
well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
My
And God
pleasure,
bless you,
sir.
and you're in our prayers, and your family.
Thank you, sir, as are you. Thank you so much. Let's go to, I'm going to hold off on Stevie V for a second because I need to get into this. I almost feel guilty now going in the opposite direction, but I got to do it because my audience demands it. They do. It's time for
Negro Nonsense. Negro Nonsense. Negro Nonsense.
Back in 1966, ladies and gentlemen, 1966, this photograph was on the cover of Ebony magazine. Now, if you're listening on the radio, you can't see it, so make sure you go to reeseontheradio.com or go to my Facebook page or anything so you can watch or you can see the video yourself. Timestamp it 18 minutes after the hour. And I was wrong, and thanks to Boston Julie for correcting me. Ebony magazine, February 1966. The headline, Are Negro Girls Getting Prettier? That's what it said. And the photograph, as you can see there, for those of you who are looking online, you can see that all of those women are what we call in the hood light-skinned. Instead of light-skinned. Light-skinned. Or as my mother would say when I was a kid, high yellow. Long story. Those of you who are African-American, you know the term. There's some other people who do know too, but that was the term. I'm brown-skinned now, but I was very much like a lot of these young ladies as far as skin tone was concerned when I was a young kid. In fact, I think I've showed a picture of that. But the letter to the editor, these were letters. I have copies of them right here. Of letters to the editor. Many of them were very interesting. And that's why I made this a part of Negro Nonsense. When talking about beauty, when talking about African Americans, these people who are screaming and hollering about Sydney Sweeney and the American Eagle jeans campaign, listen to some of these in the article. These are people writing to the editor. Your article, Are Negro Girls Getting Prettier, was marvelous. I'm sure it was a great morale booster to Negro girls everywhere. However, I have an axe to grind. Of all the girls pictured, I did not see any from the West Coast. Aren't we pretty enough? That one was from Oakland, California. Another person wrote, your feature story, Are Negro Girls Getting Prettier, was your most miraculous article to date, notwithstanding the scientific analysis you presented to substantiate your claim. The answer is quite obviously no. Wow, that is so mean. That one came from Philadelphia. This one, another one, writes, your February, what is it? I think it's blurry. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, your February article asked the question, Are Negro Girls Getting Prettier? The answer is obvious, and the reasons are apparent. They certainly are getting prettier. They write. By the way, these are black people writing to the people at Ebony. Okay? They don't seem to have a problem. But here are some people who were not happy about it. Like a million other young men. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That one's in favor. That one's from Richmond, Virginia. This one. Oh, this is perfect. It's in the same vein of Negro Nonsense. It begins, how dare you? We Negro women are the only women in the world who don't get any praise for our beauty. Now you decide to write an article called Are Negro Girls Getting Prettier? We've been pretty all along. just up until a few years ago, we had to, we had no access to cosmetics, wigs, and etc. White women have been using these for years, they wrote. I'm not kidding. This is what they were writing in 1966 in Ebony magazine, of all places. Of all places. And the women who are being displayed here are of light-skinted tone. Which goes back, and why am I bringing this up? And why this is so relevant, okay? Is that this so-called thing about what is and what isn't beautiful is being decided by people who deserve no power. Magazines, media. They don't get to dictate to anybody what is and what isn't beautiful. All of that is silliness. But what really makes all of this horrendous, what really makes all of this so tragic, is the fact that people give that power away so easily. Those people who are outraged online about Sydney Sweeney, those people have given power to a gene company. Do you understand that? That's what they think. They think they're fighting against a powerful entity. Because if it had no power, it would mean nothing. I have this saying that says, never give power to things that don't have it. All power is given to someone. They don't just exert it. They don't just have it. It has to be given. What they do with the power you give them, and if it's against you, you must understand that you gave them that power to abuse you. If you don't give the power, they can never harm you. My wife and I'm telling a little bit of a tale out of school here. She's got a very contentious relationship with her mom. And as many people do. But the reason why that exists is because her mother and many other mothers in people's lives have a dominion that only you give them. Once you are done with giving them that power, you are free. They can only do harm if they can do harm. So as I tell people, I said this thing about, jokingly, people get mad when I bring it up. And, I used to say this about the N-word. It's like, why is that never, it's like, yeah, somebody asked me, I was like, why do you never get upset about that word? I see so many people get angry. Why does it never bother you? Because it has no power. It doesn't. I won't give it power, and I won't give the person who uses it power. Because once I give it power, it proves two things. One, it's already what I think of myself. And two, they're on to me. I will never give anything that power. People are going to say and think things about you. People are going to do things that upset you, but it is always about the power you give it. Pay it no mind, it doesn't affect you. These people are finding problems with Sydney Sweeney. They are finding problems with this ad because they feel like they're gaining power by fighting back against it. But if it has no power to begin with, what are you fighting? Think about it. Sydney Sweeney has no power against you. She doesn't even know you. Ladies, she doesn't know you. She doesn't even know you exist. Neither does the American Eagle. They don't know you exist, and they don't care if you do. They have no interest in your ridiculous little life. And I call it ridiculous that if you are paying focus or giving focus to this big, giant corporation that just made $400 million while you sit there trying to make ends meet or pay for medical bills you clearly can't afford, if you think that you are going to slay that Goliath because you wish to boycott people who don't know you or care about you and think that that in some way gives you power, you're silly. Because guess what? Even if you take down American Eagle, which you won't, even if you take down Cindy Sweeney, which you never can, your miserable life still exists for you to find something else for you to give power to. That's just the way that it is. You're the minor person here. You're the little person here. Let it go. It's too big for you. And if you ignore it, you'll live a better life. That's all I'm saying. When we come back, we'll take some more of your phone calls. We'll wrap up this puppy. And we'll do what had happened was. Let's get to Matt Benz, who's in for Jason Caterina with weather, and Mark Christopher, as always, in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Well, actually, tomorrow's show I am really, really excited for because two people who are really, really big fans of each other get to hang out tomorrow for Ladies' Night.
Yes, it's Ladies' Night, oh, night.
Now, Joey, are you familiar with Ladies' Night? Do you know anything about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you do know.
Yeah, I saw Shaka Khan in concert.
No, I mean on the show, on this show. Are you familiar with Ladies'
A little
Night
bit,
on
yeah.
this show? Okay. So you do know that we bring Roseanne in every Friday to talk about anything and everything under the sun. The boy just turned 18 years old today.
How's she handling it?
Out of sorts, out of sorts, out of sorts. That's the best I can give you. So, of course, I'll be talking to her about how she's navigating with the fact that she's got an 18-year-old son who's, very, very independent, has a girlfriend. He's driving. He's traveling across the country now. He's a man. I mean, there's just no other way to slice it. And so we'll talk to her about it. But what I mean by the first time is it the first time we get to do Friday night, Ladies' Night with you at the helm. So she's excited. You guys are quite fond of each other. You guys have always, sort of gotten along since the moment you guys met. So you kind of get to hang out with us. So it's a whole free-for-all because it's, usually a slow news day unless, of course, something, interesting happens. It usually stays pretty, low-key and lighthearted. So
I see this quote on socials a lot. As a parent, you do your best to raise the child you can't live without to live without you.
Yeah, and she's watched this movie. I want to talk to her about this movie that she saw called Otherhood, and it's a movie about these three mothers who get together, and all of their sons have grown up and moved away, and this sort of conflict that the mothers go through with their sons who, were right by their side and were, their best friends, growing up. And now they've gotten older and moved on. And she watched it. And, of course, I, went to go to the movies. I got back and she had finished watching the film. I'm like, how you doing? And she was like, oh, I cried. I'm like, oh, I was a mess. And I get it. I understand. I know fathers are different. But I'm starting to understand this in a way that I never did before because me and my mom just kind of cut ties. You know what I mean? It's not in a bad way. We just kind of went like we didn't have that struggle. It's a new struggle with moms and their sons today.
Yeah.
Am I missing something?
No, I think it definitely is.
Because is your wife like that with the boys? Because you have nothing but boys, right?
Yeah, 3 boys. No, I mean, it hit me a couple weeks ago. I was sitting there doing dishes, and one of the kids has a part-time summer job, and he came over and he was making his sandwich and getting his lunchbox ready for the next day. I'm like, damn, you're like an adult now. Where the heck did that come from?
Yeah, does it make you feel useless now?
In kind of a way, yeah. Like I told him, I'll always be bigger. That's why they invented the 2x4, so I'll do something stupid.
Oh, man. You know what? Who's right for this one?
Jim Duggan on him.
None other than Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. Mark, do you think that your wife deals with your son getting older different than you do?
Not really.
Like that bond?
It's funny because he tends to listen to her more than he listens to me. He doesn't really give me.
Really? So he's still kind of got that close bond with his mother.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
Okay, so you get what we're talking about. So tomorrow, Roseanne, of course, is going to be in the show, and she's dealing with the fact that her boy's growing up, and he's becoming he was always right by her side, so to speak.
Now, does she have one son?
No, she's got two others who have grown, and but this is her baby.
They moved on. Okay, this is the
This
baby. Okay, yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
this is like the final child,
Right.
and the grip is really tight on this one.
Wow.
She's
not letting that grip go, huh?
Oh, it's really, really bad to watch, man. You have no idea. Sometimes I got to step away, like quietly, and close the door, and like run for the hills because I want
Wow.
no. It's an emotional mess.
Yeah, it is. No question
Yeah.
about it.
So
My
yeah,
son's turning 17 next week. Joey, can you send your son over to kind of train my son how to start handling things on his own?
Oh, I got two of them, and they do things completely differently and oppositely. So it's definitely a tricky situation.
Well, the son that's working and he can, prepare for the next day without you having a problem.
Oh, get him over there.
He is the quintessential old soul. That kid does his own laundry. Like, he's good to go. The other one, I'm like, dude, your underwear don't go belonging in the hallway.
Oh, my God. Can you give him some old soul to my son just a little bit?
He's probably. We always joked he was the only teenager with an AARP membership.
Well, there you go. There you go.
We're back, Reese on the radio. We are definitely about to get up out of here. Let me get to Stevie V real quick. How we doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Speaking of Negro Nonsense, I'm really disappointed when Eddie Murphy had apologized for things like his Raw album.
Wait a minute. You said you're disappointed with Eddie Murphy, but what for
apologizing for what he said on the
Oh,
Raw
I will
album.
never forget
New
that.
Team
Are
World.
you okay? For those of you who don't know this, apparently when Eddie Murphy got right back into sort of like I guess he started doing interviews a couple of years ago. And this was before his return to doing the whole the Coming to America thing. He had put out a statement saying that comedy has changed, and it was really just after Dave Chappelle's controversy, and he started apologizing for the jokes that he put in the famous, very, very famous comedy bit and movie called Raw. And you, like me, Stevie V, were just going, what? Like that? There's nothing to apologize for.
Absolutely.
And
I think he'd make a better game. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you say it. I'm sorry.
No, I'm going to just continue with a different thought with him, but I want to hear what you had to say.
No, I was going to say that really ruined a lot of my view on Eddie Murphy understanding comedy and its evolution. In essence, like nobody should ever have to apologize for the comedy that they've done because, again, then it puts a restriction on all future comedy, so to speak. What I mean by that is, can you imagine a Richard Pryor or a Red Fox or even Lenny Bruce, if they were alive today, apologizing for the comedy that brought comedy where it is today? Like, without them... I was going to say, without them, I don't think... Exactly. Without them, we wouldn't have comedy the way it is today. But go ahead.
Absolutely. I don't think Richard Pryor would apologize for even Blazing Saddles with all that he said in that.
Exactly.
Not that he said, but he wrote it. But I do want to talk Eddie Murphy a little bit more, but you did see the movie Being There. Just wondering if you liked it or not.
I did. I loved it, and it's brilliant, and I'm trying to find clips from it that I could use because it's a long sort of drawn out, but it's got to be perfect for what I'm trying to do.
Awesome. Now, as far as Eddie Murphy goes, I think he'd make a better James Bond than he would have Inspector Clouseau. Other people tried that part. There's Alan Arkin.
Right.
They're never going to match. Steve Martin had done it. They're never going to match Peter Sellers. I think if they want to do a movie like that, they should have his own character and not Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah, because there is a thing that Eddie Murphy does that I've never been a fan of lately. And there is what we call the bug-eyed comedy that is sort of over the top. And folks, get mad at me. I don't care. I'm saying it, not Steve. It's very minstrel. And I don't like it. And you know who does that? Who is so... he's good at it. He's almost good at covering it up a bit, but it is also very minstrel. Kevin Hart. It's, the kind of over-the-top screaming and hollering. There was only one guy who did that kind of comedy that did it with a style that didn't look minstrel, and it's Chris Tucker.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I don't know Kevin Hart well. I've heard the name. I've probably seen him, but I just really can't place who he is.
Yeah, that's okay. Very, very
Chris
short
Tucker,
actor.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Chris Tucker, and for those of you who know they saw the film, The Fifth Element, with Bruce Willis, directed by Luc Besson, you will know that character, which a lot of people don't know, and I thought about it when I saw the movie, was the role that Chris Tucker had was originally written for Prince, of all people. And so that's why when you look at that character, you say, wow, that looks like a role that Prince would play because it was written for him.
Gotcha.
And,
one thing about Tucker, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it.
One thing about Tucker, he kind of reminds me of your older type character actors, comedians, Jackie Gleason, Rodney Dangerfield. So I don't know if I would even consider it like minstrel like you're saying, but it's just the expressions and stuff that, those older people were known to do. He seems to nail that pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a degree of comedy that Eddie Murphy was able to deliver that had a style where he didn't, again, have to be kind of, I'm sorry, I hate using the term, but buffoonery. Now, let me give you some examples. The first comedy Eddie Murphy does that sort of puts him on the map is the 48 Hours, which, again, the only time you see Eddie Murphy do sort of like the clownish stuff is in the opening of the film where he's singing Roxanne. Right?
Roxanne,
that opening scene is, of course, it's and you don't even think of it in that sense because there's a degree of his introduction into the mainstream because of his characters on Saturday Night Live. So he's almost taking his Saturday Night Live persona and bringing it to the screen so that people recognize Eddie Murphy, right? And then the character gets gritty at times, but very professional and strong. Especially the scene inside the bar where he's looking for the guy, he pretty much tells them that, I'm the new sheriff in town, so to speak. So that is a tough scene. Yeah, exactly. That is a very tough scene, and it's a masculine scene. And people rooted for him because he didn't seem like he was kind of playing just a comic relief. That's why I liked about it. And Axel Foley, as Lori just brought up in the chat room, he is a fast-talking, slick cop, but he's always the hero. You know what I mean? He's not bumbling into success.
I would love to see him in a serious role, and when he played up against Nick Nolte, I thought that was a good combination for the two.
It is, yeah. And you know what? It's funny because speaking of Eddie Murphy, I don't know if you know this, but many people say this on the inside. In fact, I'm almost certain I can qualify this statement. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in the film Dreamgirls. And during consideration, he did a movie written by his brother, Charlie Murphy, the late Charlie Murphy. He did a movie written by his brother called Norbit that came out during the time of consideration for Dreamgirls. And people said that his multi-characters in Norbit took him out of the running because Norbit was so bad, and people thought that if he had won for Dreamgirls, they only would have remembered him from Norbit, and that would have been a bad look. So they're saying that it actually lost contention. He lost to is it Alan Arkin? Is that the actor's name?
There is an actor. I don't know.
Yeah, Alan Arkin. And Lori, correct me if I'm wrong. That year, Alan Arkin won for Little Miss Sunshine, which, by the way, Arkin's character in Little Miss Sunshine is absolutely stellar. It was hilarious. It was funny. And he deserved it. Not that Eddie Murphy didn't, but the fact that it went to Arkin wasn't given away, so to speak, because he did deserve it. It was a great role. I did love that movie.
I don't even think it's fair that they would have pulled him because he had a bad role and his brother.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like that either. It was almost the same case, Steve, before I let you go, which always drove me nuts. Samuel L. Jackson versus John Travolta, both nominated for the movie Pulp Fiction. And the reason why John Travolta got Best Actor as opposed to Best Supporting Actor that went or was nominated for Samuel L. Jackson, because that's how they made the decision. John Travolta got Best Actor nomination, and Samuel L. Jackson got Best Supporting Actor nomination. The reason why that was chosen, even though Samuel L. Jackson's character is much more memorable, is because of the screen time. John Travolta's screen time, I hear, is about a minute or 2 minutes longer than Samuel L. Jackson's in Pulp Fiction. And
it's amazing, too. Like, Steve McQueen always used to pull for, like, the longer screen time and everything. Yeah. It's amazing how the dynamics of all that works.
Yeah, it's insane. But, I still think if Samuel L. Jackson would have been nominated for Best Actor, there's no way he doesn't win in Pulp Fiction. It just doesn't win. There's no way. Just no way. It's the most memorable.
I mean, he did a great role.
That was a great role. Thank you, boss. Let me go to Jim in Wellington before we get out of here. How are you, Jim?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not sure what the whole topic is, but here's what I'll say about Eddie Murphy. That guy is a triple hitter.
I think he is.
There's nothing that guy can't. You go back 20, 22, 25 years. That guy, there's nothing he can't do. I would like to see him get a role like Robin Williams did, a serious role.
Yeah.
Because there's no way he couldn't. It would have to be a great role. And Robin Williams, boy, he had a couple of great roles.
Sure did.
Paying, serious customers. But there's no way Eddie Murphy. In my mind, he's just got it all. Between the music, the comedy, the acting, the caricatures, the impersonations.
Yeah, I think, like I said, hands down, I think he's a quadruple threat, to be honest with you, now that you mention it.
Okay, well, there you go. And there's just no way. And I think the guy is really, with all the support, with all of the access and excess he can have in life, I think this guy is well-grounded.
Yeah, I think so, too. He seems like the guy that you can still hang out with at, like, a barbecue or a picnic.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, thanks for the time, is he's got one of those faces that you can laugh before he even opens up his mouth. And there's other people you can say that to.
Yeah, you sort of remember it. Yeah, you look at him, and there's everything that he's ever said that was hilarious comes to mind when you look at him.
Yes, and you know it. And when he's put on, he puts you on, and you kind of know it. And there's no malice there.
Absolutely.
He's got it all. Okay, that's all I got.
That's all. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you. Eddie Murphy destroyed his entire career when he did Daddy Daycare. I don't think so. I think the hiatus he took for a long time, he did some bad movies. Don't get me wrong. I think that movie Dave or whatever it was where he plays a robot or an alien, that was pretty bad. He did some clunkers. Don't get me wrong. He says that the one thing that he did that was exhausting, he couldn't stand, he didn't like Harlem Nights. It's one of the films that he didn't like. I'll tell you what Eddie Murphy needs to realize, and maybe he should. Recently, I saw an interview with him where he said that working with John Landis for Coming to America, he said that was the roughest experience he ever had in his life. And look how classic that movie was. Maybe that's what he needs to get back to it. Get somebody, get with a director that he's as a contention, and they came. That movie is perfect from beginning to end. So maybe he needs that. So we'll see. We'll check it out. It's Eddie Murphy. You got to go see it just to go find out. That's our show for today, folks. We'll be back tomorrow with more Russiagate. There's more and more information that's coming out, so we'll break that down when we return. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your minds. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. You have a good night, pleasant tomorrow. Stay out of trouble. Be good to each other. All right? Be good to each other. And don't be jealous of white, blonde women with blue eyes in jeans. Just get over that. Matt easy. Yeah, it's not easy. Matt Benz, he's got weather. And Mark Christopher, he's in the BPS Traffic Center. Good night, Mark.
Hey, Reese, have a good night. If you're heading 91...
You're clear, sir.
Thank you, sir. I will see you mañana.
Just after
yes, sir.
Quantic Avenue. It looks like it's an ambulance. Left lane and the HOV lane blocked there. Delays back to 40. The Bradley connector behind.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of stuff coming out. I'm getting more and more details about this Russia thing. I'm wanting to see if there's any statements coming out from anybody else. All right, but we'll get to it. I love you guys. We will talk to you mañana. All right? Stay out of trouble. Be good to each other.